The robber who looked straight into the camera. October 9, 2019, 11:02 a.m. Riverside First Credit Union, Columbus, Ohio. If you freeze the security footage at the exact moment he walks in, nothing about him looks like a criminal. No mask, no hoodie, no gloves, just a man, damp from the cold drizzle outside, pushing open a glass door as a cheerful little bell chimes overhead. The lobby smells like printer toner and cheap air freshener. Fluorescent lights flatten everything into the same tired office. White. A TV in the corner murmurs muted news. Stock tickers crawling silently across the bottom of the screen. 3 customers, 2 tellers, 1 security camera above the entrance watching. He pauses on the mat just inside, shakes a few raindrops from his navy windbreaker, and lifts his head. For a fraction of a second, his eyes lock directly with the black glass dome of the camera. Most robbers flinch away from that lens. He gives it the smallest hint of a smile. In his right hand, he's holding a steaming paper coffee cup. In his left, a small, neatly folded piece of yellow notepad paper. From behind the counter, teller Melissa Hart sees another customer, nothing more. It's midweek, mid-morning prime time for direct deposits and mortgage questions, not for the story that will replay in her dreams for months. Next in line, she calls, barely glancing up from her screen. He steps forward. Up close, there's still nothing remarkable. Early to mid-30s, light stubble, brown hair clipped short, a face you'd lose instantly in a crowd of 100. But his eyes, they don't wander. They go straight to hers and stay there. "Good morning," he says. His voice is low, steady, almost bored. He doesn't pull out a wallet. He doesn't ask about his balance. He slides the folded paper across the counter, just with the tips of his fingers, as casually as if he were handing her a shopping list. Melissa unfolds it with one hand, her other still resting on the keyboard. The handwriting is blocky, printed in thick black ink. "This is a robbery. Stay calm. Nitrogen monoxide dye packs. Nitrogen monoxide, GPS, put 20s, 50s, 100s in a bag. You have 30 seconds. I don't want to hurt anyone." Her jaw tightens. The world doesn't slow down, it sharpens. She becomes painfully aware of every sound, the clack of keys from the next window, the soft whir of the lobby camera rotating, the tick of the clock above the manager's office door. She looks up. He hasn't moved. His left hand has disappeared into his jacket pocket. He doesn't show what's inside. He doesn't need to. "I need you to do exactly what it says," he murmurs, never breaking eye contact. No alarms, no buttons, just the cash. His voice is so calm that Melissa's brain has trouble catching up to the words. There's no adrenaline, no shaking. No, this is not a game. None of the movie-style panic she's been trained to expect. It feels like he's asking her to correct a typo, not empty her drawer. Her training arrives before her courage does. Open the till, comply, stay alive. Her fingers suddenly clumsy, drag open the drawer. Stacks of 20s, 50s, 100s sit where they always do, rubber-banded and neat. She starts pulling them out, the bands snapping against her knuckles with sharp little pops. "Faster," he says softly, not angry, just efficient. To her left, another teller laughs at something a customer says over the phone, completely unaware. An older woman near the waiting chairs frowns into her purse, fishing for a pen. Melissa yanks a cloth cash bag from under the counter. One of the ones used for armored car pickups, and stuffs the money inside. Her hands are shaking so badly the bills go in crooked. She expects him to snatch the bag the moment it's full. He doesn't. Instead, he waits until she pushes it gently toward him like she's finishing any other transaction. He takes the bag in his right hand. Then, with his left, he does something that'll make detectives pause the footage over and over again later. He reaches forward, plucks the demand note back off the counter, folds it twice with neat little creases, and tucks it into his pocket. No paper evidence, no careless scrap for CSI to dust. "Thank you," he says, "thank you." He turns away from the counter and walks, not runs across the lobby. The coffee cup is still in his hand, the bag of cash hanging casually at his side. Melissa watches him push open the glass door, the bell chiming its same cheerful note as he disappears into the gray light outside. No one screams, no one drops to the floor. For 3 long seconds, the bank is impossibly silent. Then reality slams back in. Her vision tunnels. Her fingers go numb. She slams her palm onto the silent alarm button under the counter. Somewhere in the ceiling, a faint relay clicks. I've just been robbed," she hears herself say, as if someone else is speaking through her mouth. The lobby tilts. 11:08 a.m. The rain has become a steady sheet by the time the first patrol car skids to the curb, red and blue strobes splintering in the wet glass of the bank windows. Detective Ryan Mercer steps out of an unmarked sedan half a minute later, coffee going cold in his hand. 8 years in robbery have taught him that most bank jobs are ugly but predictable. Masks, screaming, a cheap pistol, and a getaway car that breaks down 3 blocks away. Inside, though, this scene is quiet. No shattered glass, no crying customers. Just a pale teller with eyes too wide and a manager who can't stop apologizing for something that isn't his fault. "Walk me through it," Mercer says gently, sitting across from Melissa in the tiny break room while an officer stands guard at the door. "He didn't cover his face," she says first, before anything else. Her voice is thin. "No hat, no sunglasses. Nothing, Mercer pauses. Nothing at all. He looked right at me, she whispers, like he wanted me to remember him. A robber with no mask, who stares into a camera and takes his own note with him. Either he is very, very stupid, or he's playing by rules Mercer hasn't seen yet. In the manager's office, the detective leans over the security monitor as the footage rewinds. There he is again. The bell, the pause, the glance up at the entrance camera, the coffee, the note. Freeze it, Mercer says. On the screen, the man's face fills the frame. Ordinary, forgettable. The kind of face you walk past every day and never notice. We'll run him through every database we've got, Mercer tells the manager. With a face this clear, he shouldn't stay a mystery for long. But within hours, every system will reply the same way. No match found. And this normal man, this unmasked robber with his coffee cup and calm eyes, will turn out to be the third act in a pattern that no one has noticed yet, a pattern traced in security footage, empty vault drawers, and one tiny repeated habit that will become his undoing. The face with no name, a pattern traced in security footage, empty vault drawers, and one tiny, repeated habit that will become his undoing. 3 hours after the robbery, Detective Mercer is standing in the glare of the squad room's overhead lights, staring at a frozen image on his monitor. It's the same face from the bank camera, cropped tight, neutral expression, eyes half-lidded, just a hint of impatience in the line of his mouth. On the screen next to it, the city's facial recognition software finishes its run with a soft electronic chime. Results, 0. No hits in city, the tech says over his shoulder. No prior arrests, no booking photos. I'll kick it to state and FBI next. They do. Ohio BMV records, state prison photos, FBI's nationwide catalog of mugshots and federal offenders. By the end of the day, every system says the same thing. No match found. A man who looked directly into a camera in the middle of a crime doesn't officially exist anywhere that law enforcement can see. Mercer drums his fingers on the edge of the desk. You're telling me this guy's never had so much as a speeding ticket? The tech shrugs. If he did, he wasn't using that face when he got it. The story hits local news that night anyway. Unmasked bank robber hits Riverside Credit Union, the lower third graphic reads. As a blurred still of the man's face hovers beside the anchor. Call this number if you recognize him. Someone always recognizes him. By the end of the next day, the tip line has logged almost 60 calls. He looks like my ex-neighbor. I'm pretty sure that's the guy who cleans our office. I saw him on the bus once. I swear, every lead becomes a dead end. Wrong guy, wrong state, wrong height. The problem is simple and infuriating. He looks like everyone. 2 days later, Mercer is back in the small conference room with a stack of printouts and a paper cup of coffee going lukewarm in his hand. Across from him, his partner, Detective Elena Alvarez, flips through the report. Middle of the day, no weapon shown. Quiet note, takes his own paperback, in and out in under 2 minutes. She reads, "What do you think, first-timer with nerves of steel, or somebody who's done this before?" Mercer stares at the still photo on the case file. "Look at his hands," he says. Alvarez slides the page closer. The frame shows him taking the bag. Grip relaxed, fingers loose. "No shake," she says. "Doesn't look like adrenaline." "First-timers usually shake," Mercer replies. "They overtalk, they rush, they screw up. This guy's pacing his breathing. So you're thinking serial." "I'm thinking this isn't his first Wednesday morning with a note in his pocket." Alvarez leans back. "We could run the MO past the financial crimes group, see if anything similar's come through." Mercer nods. Same demand style, same calm, no disguise. "And make sure they look at other cities too. Guy like this, he's not loyal to Columbus." The email goes out that afternoon. Unmasked note, robber, Columbus, Ohio. See attached still, MO details. Requesting info on similar incidents past 12 MONTHS. It lands in inboxes in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Dayton, Toledo, even across the state line in Indiana and Kentucky. For a day, nothing. Then, at 9:17 the next morning, Mercer's phone buzzes. This is Detective Lisa Kwan with Cincinnati PD. The voice on the other end says, "I think we've met your guy."
September 3rd, 2019, 10:26 a.m., Queen City Savings and Loan, Cincinnati, Ohio. The security footage from that robbery looks like a dress rehearsal for Columbus. Same dull gray sky outside the windows. Same bank lobby blandness. Posters about saving for college. Fake plants in the corner. Same man. He steps into frame with a paper coffee cup in his right hand. A folded slip of paper in his left. He picks a teller. He slides the note. Kwan's report reads like a mirror of Melissa's. The suspect did not wear a mask or hat. Spoke calmly. Never raised voice. Did not display a weapon, but kept hand in jacket pocket. Took demand note after compliance. Cincinnati's facial rec software came up as empty as Columbus. After 48 hours of chasing useless tips, Kwan filed him as unknown, mail case open. No leads now. She and Mercer sit on a conference call. each staring at the other's still photo on their screens. Same guy, Quan says. No question. Time of day too, Mercer adds. You said he hit you around 10:30? Yeah, midweek, mid-morning, low foot traffic. Maximum cash in drawers? Same here. 2 banks, 2 cities. 5 weeks apart. Same face, same theater, quiet manner. Same contempt for disguises. They send both case files up to the State Robbery Task Force. Within 24 hours, a third reply pings back. Subject appears to match unknown from Union Trust Robbery, Lorraine O., April 2019. April 15, 2019, 9:41 a.m. Union Trust Bank, Lorraine, Ohio. The Lorraine video is grainier. The angle's worse, but the choreography is unmistakable. He enters just after opening when the floor is almost empty. There's the coffee cup, again same size, same plain white lid. The note is slightly different this time, shorter, the handwriting a little more cramped. This is a robbery. No alarms. Just cash. But the mannerism is the same. Calm, steady, in, out, gone. That first detective chalked it up to a drifter maybe passing through Cleveland, maybe heading west. They logged his description, dumped stills to the local news, waited for a match that never came. Now, linked to 2 more jobs, he's something else. Not a drifter. You're not a hothead with a gun and a ski mask. A man who walks into banks in broad daylight with his own face, his own eyes, and an exit already plotted. Back in Columbus, Mercer spreads the 3 case files across the table. Lorraine in April, Cincinnati in September, U.S. in October, he says, tapping each stack. He's working the same region along major interstates, hitting different credit unions and local banks. Enough distance that patrol doesn't connect the dots, close enough he can drive it. Alvarez scans the reports, amount taken at each. Lorraine, roughly 22 grand. Cincinnati, just over 31. Hours, 28 and change. Not huge scores, she says. But decent payouts for a guy with no mask and no gun showing. He's not greedy, Mercer notes. He wants enough to walk out with, not enough to justify more security. The task force analyst, a quiet woman named Harper, looks up from her laptop. I pulled ATM logs, local lodging, car rentals around each bank. Within a 3-mile radius and a 12-hour window, she says. I got a pile of names, but nothing that repeats exactly at all 3 locations. He's not using the same ID twice. Burner phones? Alvarez asks. Too early to tell, Harper replies. Cell tower data is messy, but there's no obvious common number hopping city to city. If he's talking to anyone, it's through throwaways. So, Mercer says, we have a guy who uses no disguise, leaves no fingerprints, takes his note with him, and doesn't leave a clean name trail anywhere he goes. And he's getting better, Quan adds on the speakerphone. Less wording on the note, more confidence in the body language. He's learning what he can cut. It's an impossible combination, visible and invisible at the same time. A face everyone can see, but no system can name. Mercer rubs his temples. Serial bank robber with no alias, no rap sheet, no online footprint. It's like chasing a ghost with skin. Harper hesitates. There is one thing that repeats. They all look at her. She swivels her laptop around. On the screen are 3 still frames, each from outside a different bank, pulled from city-owned street cameras. Same day as each robbery, she says, 10 to 15 minutes before the first 911 call. Look, in Lorraine, the man is crossing a side street, a coffee cup in his right hand. In Cincinnati, he is pushing open a glass door with a logo printed above Iton orange circle with a stylized steam icon. In Columbus, he is walking along the sidewalk, the same logo visible on the cup he tosses into a trash can just off camera before entering the bank. That brand, Harper says, Rivertown Roasters. Regional chain? 42 locations in Ohio. He hits a bank hand before each hit. He stops for the same coffee. The room goes quiet. Mercer leans closer to the screen. The robber, who has refused to leave so much as a fingerprint, has been leaving them somewhere else all along in counters, on doors, on trash cans. Forget the banks for a second, he says slowly. Let's hunt him where he thinks he's invisible, standing in line for his morning coffee. Hunting the ghost in the coffee line. Let's hunt him where he thinks he's invisible, standing in line for his morning coffee. The room shifts. For the first time since the 3 case files landed on the table, Mercer feels like they're not just reacting, they're moving first. Harper zooms in further on the still from Cincinnati. The orange and white logo above the glass door. The blurred letters, Rivertown Roasters, through the window. You can just make out the suspect at the counter. Profile turned toward the barista, coffee already in his hand. Timeline? Alvarez asks. Lorraine cameras show him crossing the street from a Rivertown at 9:29 a.m., Harper says, flicking to the next frame. Bank robbery call comes in at 9:41. She taps the Cincinnati shot. Here he leaves the shop at 10:14. Queen City gets hit at 10:26. Then Columbus. A traffic cam image catches him tossing a cup toward a trash can with the same logo. Cup goes in at 10:56. Alarm at Riverside first hits dispatch at 11:03. Mercer exhales slowly. He warms up with coffee, then walks straight into a bank, he says. Same chain, every time. He thinks it's just another anonymous stop, Harper replies. But coffee shops have cameras too, sometimes better than the banks. 2 days later, the regional manager for Rivertown Roasters sits in a conference room at Columbus PD, hands folded a little too tightly in his lap. He's not used to being on this side of the interrogation table. We're not saying your stores did anything wrong, Alvarez reassures him, sliding the still images across the table. We're saying this guy really likes your coffee, and he's using your locations as a launch pad. The manager glances at the photos. Lorraine, Cincinnati, Columbus, and back at the detectives. I can get you security footage from any store, he says. We keep 30 days on site, then another 60 archived on our servers. It's time-stamped. And transactions, Harper asks from the corner. Notebook open, receipts, loyalty accounts, that sort of thing. We have a rewards app, he says. Customers scan a QR code. We log their drinks, points, whatever. We also keep card transaction logs for accounting. He hesitates. But you're talking hundreds of thousands of records. We're not asking for all of it, Mercer says. Just narrow windows. 1 hour before each robbery, specific stores. The manager exhales, nods. I'll talk to legal, but yeah, we can do that. He doesn't say what's written on his face. That the idea of his brand being linked to a serial bank robber makes his stomach clench. Rivertown's IT team sends over the first batch of data 48 hours later. Lorraine. Branch. All in-store camera footage and point-of-sale logs from 8:30 to 9:45 a.m. April 15th. Cincinnati branch. Same for 9:45 to 10:30 a.m. September 3rd. Columbus branch. 10:30 to 11:15 a.m. October 9th. The footage plays on a big monitor in the task force room. In Lorraine, the shop is half full of commuters and students. The suspect stands in line wearing a gray hoodie and the same navy windbreaker he'll wear into the bank. He thumbs through his phone, says 3 words to the barista, takes a plain black coffee in a white cup and leaves. In Cincinnati, he's in a different jacket, but the ritual is identical. Order, coffee, exit. In Columbus, the angle catches his face head-on as he waits, eyes scanning the pastries without really seeing them. What's he paying with, Mercer asks. Cash? Harper scrolls through the transaction logs for each 10-minute window. No card, she says. See here. She highlights 3 entries. 9:33 a.m. Lorraine. LG coffee. $2.45. Card ending 4711. 10:11 a.m. Cincinnati. LG coffee. 2.45 card ending 4711. 10:53 a.m. Columbus. LG coffee. 2.75 card ending 4711, same last 4 digits. Alvarez breathes. He's careful about everything. Except his caffeine habit. Could be a debit card, credit card, or a reloadable gift, Harper says. Either way, that number's our leash. Mercer looks at the still of the man holding his coffee, oblivious that a $2 purchase has just tied his 3 perfect robberies together. He walked into 3 banks with no name, the detective says. So let's get his from Visa, with a judge's signature on an emergency disclosure order. The task force sends the card fragment and timestamps to Rivertown's payment processor. For a day, nothing. Then a call comes in while Mercer is at his desk, rifling through an evidence box of old robbery files. This is Special Agent Sarah Joliet, With the Financial Crimes Unit, the voice on the line says, "We got your subpoena." "You're looking for a card ending in 4711? "That's right," Mercer says, sitting up. "Multiple small transactions at Rivertown Roasters before robberies?" "We traced it," Joliet says. "It's not a traditional credit card. It's a reloadable, prepaid branded, but technically anonymous." Mercer feels his jaw clench. "So we've got nothing?" "Not exactly," she replies. "Prepaids don't require a full ID to use, but someone has to buy them. Big chains like Rivertown track card numbers from point of sale." He hears keystrokes on her end. "This card was loaded 3 times in the past year," she continues. "All at the same grocery chain, Northmart." She rattles off 3 dates and times. April 13th, Lorraine Northmart, $200 loaded. September 1st, a Cincinnati suburb, $150. October 7th, Columbus outskirts, $180. Each load happens 2 days before a robbery. In a store within 10 miles of the bank, he'll hit. "If you can get Northmart's security footage for those timestamps," Joliet says, "there's a good chance your guy's on camera buying that card." Mercer practically sprints to the task force room. Northmart's loss prevention manager isn't happy to see detectives, but the subpoena leaves little room for argument. Within a week, they have 3 more sets of video queued up. The first one is from Lorraine. The timestamp in the corner reads 7:14 p.m. April 13th. The grocery store looks like any other in America. Aisles of cereal, Hummin' coolers, harsh white lights. At the customer service counter, a man in a ball cap stands with his back to the camera. The clerk pulls a plastic card from a display, scans it, and hands him the PIN-activated prepaid. He peels a few bills from his wallet, pays, tucks the card into his jacket, then turns just far enough for the side-angle camera to catch his face. It's him, same light stubble, same eyes, same calm, unhurried expression. "Freeze that," Alvarez says. Harper advances frame by frame until they get the clearest shot they can. She prints it and tapes it next to the stills from the banks and coffee shops. "Same man, 3 cities, 6 locations," Mercer says quietly. He thinks a prepaid card makes him a ghost. "What about plate cameras in the parking lot?" Alvarez asks. Northmart's exterior cameras are low res, but they do the best they can. On the Lorraine footage, their suspect walks out into the evening light and heads toward a dark sedan. The plate is mud-splattered, unreadable. "Okay," Mercer mutters. "Cincinnati?" The second video from a suburb outside the city is clearer. At 6:49 p.m., September 1st, the same man stands at another customer service desk. Same ritual, same quiet manner. This time, when he walks out, a camera near the cart return catches the back of his car. The plate is still slightly dirty, but one thing stands out. An Ohio tag frame with the logo of a specific used car dealership. Riverside Auto Outlet, Harper reads, zooming in. "That's local to Columbus." Mercer feels a jolt. "He bought his car in my city," he says. "He's not just passing through. He's based here." "Then the DMV should have something," Alvarez replies. Even if facial recognition didn't, Joliet's team sends over every customer file tied to that dealership in the last 2 years. It's a thick stack, but now they're not looking for a face in 1,000, they're looking for a pattern. Men aged 25 to 45, no cosigners, cash down payments, dark sedans. They narrow it to 40, then 22. Then Harper draws a red circle around one name. "Look at purchase date," she says. "He bought this car 11 days before the first Lorraine robbery, paid mostly in cash. He have a workplace phone number that doesn't actually connect to any business." The file lists him as Daniel Cole, 36. No prior criminal record, current address. A modest apartment complex on the east side of Columbus. For months, he'd been a ghost with a face, but no name. Now, because he couldn't resist a hot cup of coffee before a job, detectives finally have both. Mercer stares at the name. "All right, Daniel," he says under his breath. "Let's see if you're as calm when someone's knocking on your own door." The task force doesn't rush. They know by now he plans meticulously, scouts locations, and moves interstate. If they blow this too early, he disappears for good. So instead of a quick arrest, they start with something slower, colder, surveillance. For the first time, the hunter has a home address. For the first time, they can watch him before he ever walks into a bank. and the next move he makes will show them exactly how far he's willing to go. Just how close they've already come without knowing it. Waiting for him to blink. Just how close they've already come without knowing it. October 23, 2019, 5:42 a.m. Eastside Apartments, Columbus, Ohio. A thin mist hangs over the parking lot, softening the harsh orange glow of the sodium lamps. Somewhere a dumpster lid bangs, then settles. Other than that, it's quiet, too early for kids, too late for drunks. In an unmarked sedan idling near the back fence, Detective Mercer wraps his hands around a travel mug and watches his breath fog the inside of the windshield. Beside him, Alvarez flips through the surveillance log on a clipboard. Cole's car hasn't moved since 8 p.m., she murmurs. He's in there, apartment 3B, one bedroom, cheap carpeting, windows that look out over the lot. For the last 48 hours, a rotating surveillance team has been watching those windows. They know Daniel Cole leaves early most weekdays. They know he comes back with grocery bags twice a week, pizza once. They watched him take trash out, pick up his mail, stand on his balcony, and smoke in the dark. They've seen no one visit, no partner, no lookout, no accomplice. He's a solo act, Alvarez says. It helps, until it doesn't, Mercer replies. Solo suspects are more predictable until they aren't, until they panic, until they decide not going back to prison is worth something reckless. The plan from the task force is simple in theory, dangerous in practice. Don't grab him here, grab him in the act. Not only would that tie him cleanly to the string of robberies, it would put the stolen cash, the note, and the terror he causes on the record in one neat package. No room for a talented defense attorney to whisper reasonable doubt to a jury. So we let him walk into a bank again, Alvarez had said, more statement than question, at the strategy meeting. With us already waiting for him, Mercer had answered. He thinks the pattern protects him. He turned the pattern into a trap. Now, in the gray before sunrise, Mercer's phone buzzes with a text from Harper. Northmart PING prepaid 4711 load, $220 WHERE, East Side Northmart WHEN. Yesterday 6:03 p.m. he holds the screen where Alvarez can see it. That's our starter pistol, he says. Every time he's loaded that card, a bank got hit within 48 hours, which means today or tomorrow, she says. The question is, where? At 7:16 a.m., a light flicks on inside apartment 3B. A shadow moves past the curtains. Mercer feels the familiar coil of adrenaline tighten under his ribs. No matter how many times he does this, the moment when a suspect's world and his own lineup separated. Only by drywall and bad paint never loses its charge. Cole emerges 40 minutes later. From a distance, he looks almost softer than he did in the bank footage. Hair still mussed from sleep. Jacket unzipped. Tote bag over one shoulder. He locks the door, checks it twice, then walks down the metal stairs and across the lot to his car. Unit 3, subject is mobile, Alvarez says into her radio. Dark blue sedan, Ohio plate standby. 2 other unmarked cars peel out behind him at a distance, just far enough that he won't see the pattern in his rearview mirror. They follow him east, then north, into the city's morning traffic. He drives like a man with nowhere special to be, obeying lights, using his turn signal, letting other cars merge. At 8:03 a.m., he pulls into the lot of a Rivertown Roasters. Of course. Copy that, Mercer says. He's in his office. They watch from across the street as he goes through the ritual they know too well now. Stand in line, hands in pockets. Step to the counter. Order. Accept the steaming cup. The difference today is that they are watching from both ends. A plainclothes officer, already seated near the back with a laptop open and headphones in, catches the whole thing from inside. The angle of Cole's jaw, the way his eyes scan the room without moving his head. The second he slips a folded slip of paper from his pocket and checks it under the table before putting it back. He leaves at 8:11, instead of heading straight for a bank this time. He drives a slow loop through a neighboring commercial strip, past a pharmacy, a strip mall, a payday lender, mid-sized regional bank with a blue logo, and a credit union squeezed between a nail salon and a tax office. Casing, Alvarez mutters, he's window shopping. Every time Cole passes a bank, he lets his gaze flick just long enough for them to see it on the dash cam. Parking lots, number of cars, visibility from the street, camera placement. He does the loop twice, then heads back toward the freeway. "Where are you going, Danny?" Mercer murmurs. The answer, for now, is nowhere decisive. Cole returns to his apartment just after 9, carrying nothing but an empty coffee cup, which he drops in the complex trash can without a second glance. Harper calls it the dry run. He likes to feel the space before he works it, she says, tapping her notes. Walk the exits in his head. Check sight lines. Are windows still open? The task force spends the rest of the day on the phone. By the end of it, 3 financial institutions along Cole's morning route have been quietly briefed. A regional bank with glass walls and 1 entrance. Strip mall credit union that sees a lot of weekday foot traffic. A larger downtown branch a few miles further, near a transit stop. In each, security protocols are reviewed, silent alarms tested, teller staff are told calmly, quietly, that they may have an undercover officer in line with them at some point in the next 48 hours. "We're not closing you down," Mercer stresses in each meeting. "We're not putting uniforms in your lobby." The second he gets a whiff that this isn't business as usual, he walks. And then he hits a different city where we don't have this setup. In the strip mall credit union, a young manager chews his lip. "You're telling me we have to just let him start?" "We're telling you we'll be there when he does," Alvarez says, "that he will not get out the door like he did last time." They position plainclothes detectives in each possible target the next morning. Some pose as customers, others as staff. A tactical team waits 2 blocks away in an unmarked van, ready to move on a single word. The word everyone agrees will be his. Once he hands over the note, once he's committed, we move, Mercer says at the pre-op briefing. We catch him with the bag, the cash, and the paper in his hand. I don't want this guy wriggling out because some jury thinks maybe he was just confused in a bank. They all know he won't be confused. October 25, 2019, 9:47 a.m., Maple Ridge Credit Union, East Columbus. The bell over the door gives the same happy chime as a dozen other banks. Inside, it smells faintly of carpet cleaner and the sugar from a bowl of complimentary lollipops. At teller window 2, an undercover officer named Kevin Ross stands behind the counter, wearing a name badge that reads Kevin Trainee. He's been a cop for 12 years. Today, he's practicing his new guy smile in the reflection on his monitor. In the lobby, customers mill about, Alvarez in a navy blazer, pretending to fill out a loan form. Harper in a cardigan, flipping through a brochure. Another detective near the exit, eyes on his phone, ears on the room. Mercer is in an unmarked car outside, engine idling, radio crackling softly. Cam feeds are live, comes a text voice in his earpiece. We have eyes on all entrances. At 9:51, a dark blue sedan pulls into the lot. Unit 3's suspect vehicle just arrived, the lookout reports. Occupant matching Cole exiting now. He doesn't rush. He never rushes. He crosses the asphalt with that same unremarkable gait, paper coffee cup in his right hand, other hand tucked in his jacket. He pauses once to drop the cup in the outside trash bin. Then he reaches into his pocket and touches something folded. Inside the lobby, Kevin Ross feels his pulse jump. The man who has only existed for them as pixels and printouts pushes through the glass doors in the flesh. He looks exactly the same. Average height, average build, calm eyes. He steps into the teller line and waits his turn, like any other customer. When the woman ahead of him finishes, he moves forward 3 paces. No more.
Ow.
No less Sands stops at window 2. Kevin lifts his gaze. "Next in line, sir," he says, his voice steady. Cole smiles a polite, almost apologetic smile. He reaches into his pocket. The small, yellow, folded rectangle his other victims remember so well appears in his hand. "Here we go." Mercer breathes into his radio from outside, watching the live security feed. "Everybody ready? Wait for the note?" Cole places it on the counter and slides it toward Kevin with 2 fingers. The entire room seems to hold its breath. When the comm finally cracks, the entire room seems to hold its breath. Kevin's fingertips brush the edge of the folded paper. For a split second, he's just a trainee reading a customer's scribble, and his eyes drop, and the blocky black letters jump off the page. This is a robbery. Night alarms cash only. The muscles along Cole's jaw don't even twitch. His left hand disappears into his jacket pocket, the same practiced motion from 3 other cities. In Kevin's ear, Mercer's voice comes low and sharp. Notes down. This is it. Green, green, green. Inside the lobby, the choreography that's taken weeks to plan explodes into motion. Alvarez, who had been pretending to frown at a loan brochure, drops it. Her right hand is already under her blazer. "Police, Daniel. Don't move," she shouts, badge flashing as her gun clears leather. The customer near the exitin, another detective pivots, weapon drawn, cutting off the door. Harper is up from her chair, stepping sideways, hand outstretched toward a stunned older woman, guiding her down behind a desk. For the first time on any camera, Daniel Cole looks surprised. His eyes flick from the badge to the muzzle, to the mirror behind the tellers, where another gun glints in the reflection. Kevin steps back from the counter, his own sidearm up now. The demand note still lying open between them like Exhibit A hands where I can see them. He barks, "Do it now." For a heartbeat, Cole could still try to finish the act. There's no visible weapon, no hostages. His right hand is free, his body angled slightly toward the nearest exit. He glances that way. Then he sees the glint of a vest through the glass one of the tactical officers coming through the outer door. His shoulders sagged, just a fraction. Slowly, deliberately, he takes his left hand out of his jacket pocket, fingers empty. He raises both hands to shoulder height. "I'm not armed," he says, voice shaken for the first time. "Don't shoot." "On your knees," Alvarez orders. "Hands on your head." Now he obeys. Dropping to the carpet as two tactical officers close in from behind, pinning his wrists, snapping cold steel around them. From the street, Mercer watches the live feed as the man who walked into 3 banks without a mask is finally face down on the floor of a 4th. "Suspect in custody," comes Alvarez's voice over the radio, breathless but controlled. No shots fired. We're clear. Only then does the bank's normal noise seep back in, the hum of the air conditioning. The distant ring of a phone, the shaky sob of a real customer who had no idea how close she'd been to a gunless but very real robbery. Booking photos are always less precise than a high-res bank cam, but the one Mercer holds hours later in the processing wing is unmistakable. Name Cole, Daniel Mark. For a man who's about to be charged with 3 robberies across the state, his official record is clean as a hospital sheet. No assaults, no petty theft, even an unpaid parking ticket. 48 hours ago, this guy was a ghost, Alvarez says, leaning in the doorframe of Mercer's office. Now he's just Daniel Cole, 36, former warehouse supervisor, apartment 3B. And a problem who thought he'd solved the system, Mercer replies. On the table between them lies the demand note taken at Maple Ridge, bagged and tagged. Next to it are 3 more sheets of paper photocopies of nearly identical notes from Lorraine, Cincinnati, and Riverside First. The handwriting matches. Or does the arrogance? He really believed, Harper says, from her seat against the wall, that if he didn't show a weapon and there was no physical evidence, it would be his word against his scared tellers. And what he walks. Alvarez snorts. Harper shrugs. He did his homework. A lot of note jobs don't get cleared. Faces are fuzzy, descriptions generic, no prints. Banks eat the loss. Police departments eat the paperwork. Mercer taps the coffee shop stills with his knuckle. Except he got cocky, he says. Thought prepaid cards and a calm voice made him invisible. Forgot about cameras he wasn't even thinking about. He forgot about habits. He forgot about coffee, Alvarez adds. The folder from the Financial Crimes Unit is thick. Payment processor records. Northmart, surveillance stills, Rivertown logs, DMV files, a paper trail built from the one part of his ritual he never thought to hide. Mercer checks his watch. Interrogation room, he asks. Ready when you are, Harper says. He lawyered up yet? Not yet, Alvarez replies. Thinks he can talk his way out of this. Mercer stands, scooping up the file. Let's go show him how wrong he is. The interrogation room is as plain as every other in America. Gray walls, a metal table, 2 chairs, a camera in the corner with a red recording light. Daniel Cole sits in one of the chairs, wrists cuffed in front of him, a paper cup of water untouched at his elbow. Without the jacket, he looks even more ordinary, soft around the middle, tired under the eyes. He looks up when Mercer walks in, followed by Alvarez. So he says, attempting a weak smile, "You guys undercover or something?" Thought you were tellers? We were, Alvarez says, dropping a folder onto the table. That's kind of the point. Mercer sits opposite him, opens the file slowly, deliberately.
Daniel?
He begins, "You know why you're here?" "You're saying I tried to rob that bank?" Cole replies, shrugging one shoulder. "But I never showed a gun. I never said I'd hurt anyone. I just wrote something stupid on a piece of paper. Panic kind of took over, you know? Your guy overreacted." He leans back as much as the cuffs allow, playing the part of the man caught in a misunderstanding more than a crime. Mercer slides a clear evidence bag toward him. Inside, the yellow note from Maple Ridge. "That's not panic," Mercer says. "That's a template. You've been refining it for months." Cole's gaze flicks to the note, then away. "Can't prove that." Mercer doesn't answer. He reaches into the file and lays out 3 photocopies, fanning them neatly across the metal. Lorraine, Cincinnati, Riverside First. Same block letters, same phrasing. He watches the exact moment Cole recognizes his own handwriting. "I don't know what those are," Cole says too quickly. "Funny," Alvarez says, "because your hand thinks it does." Mercer slides over a second bag. A Rivertown Roasters receipt with the last 4 digits of the prepaid card, time-stamped less than 30 minutes before the Maple Ridge incident. Then another set of photos, Cole at 3 different Rivertown locations, then at 3 different North Marts, buying the same card. "This is you and Lorraine," Mercer says, tapping one. "Buying a prepaid 2 days before a bank there got hit?" He moves to the next. "This is you in Cincinnati. Same card, same pattern. Finally, Columbus. And this is you, Daniel, topping up that card at the East Side North Mart, 48 hours before walking into Riverside First and making Melissa. Hart thinks she might die for doing her job." He lets the words hang. Cole's composure doesn't shatter all at once. "It phrase, that's just coffee," he stammers. "Lots of people drink there. Lots of people buy those cards." "True," Harper's voice says calmly from the doorways. She's joined them quietly, a separate witness. "But not lots of people have your face, your walk, your jacket, your card number, and show up on every camera from the grocery store to the bank. Every single time money goes missing." Mercer leans in. "You thought you'd found a loophole," he says. "No mask means you can say it's a misidentification. No weapon means maybe a sympathetic jury. Prepaid cards, fake work numbers, nothing in your name. Figured we'd never tie it all together." Cole's jaw tightens. "So what if I wrote a note?" he mutters. "Nobody got hurt?" "Not physically," Alvarez says. "Melissa still has panic attacks every time the door chimes. Tell her in Cincinnati quit her job because she can't stand the smell of coffee anymore. The Lorraine branch had to put in extra security they can't really afford. You didn't need a gun to do damage." Mercer slides one last document across the table. A copy of the probable cause affidavit. It lists every piece of evidence they've compiled. The 3 connected robberies, the 4th, attempted, the surveillance, the receipts, the card logs, the DMV match. The arrest at Maple Ridge, note still warm from his hand. "You're not here because of one stupid piece of paper," Mercer says quietly. "You're here because you built a pattern and thought no one would ever see it. We did, because you couldn't walk past a coffee shop without going in." For the first time, Cole looks genuinely afraid, not angry, not defiant, afraid. His shoulders slump. "How long?" he asks. Alvarez doesn't sugarcoat it. 3 completed robberies, 1 attempted. Interstate pattern, financial institutions, documented planning. You're looking at federal time. Decades. Cole stares at the table. I never thought he starts, then stops. "That," Mercer says, "is your problem." Months later, when the trial transcripts are filed away and the nightly news has moved on, the story of the unmasked robber becomes one more episode in Columbus PD's training library. Recruits watch the security footage, the calm man with the coffee, the tiny folded note, the way he always seemed to stare straight into the camera without flinching. They hear how for weeks his face meant nothing to any database. Then they see the frames from the coffee shops, the North Marts, the parking lots. The habit he never bothered to hide. He thought anonymity lived in ski masks and burner phones. Thought if he didn't cover his face and never left a fingerprint, he'd slide through the cracks of a busy system. But in the end, it wasn't a high-tech breakthrough or a lucky confession that stopped him. It was a cardboard cup, a logo, a pattern only visible to people willing to watch the boring minutes before the crime, not just the dramatic ones in the middle of it. He robbed 3 banks without a mask and walked out smiling, convinced no one could ever catch him. All it took was one tiny ritual, a coffee stop he made before every job, to prove he was wrong.